Good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Market Stalker stream. We're going to be nice and comfy. I'm a little bit light sensitive today, and I'm in my robe, so I'm doing my best impression of Hugh Hefner. Let me increase this background music a little bit. I'm having a problem with my OBS where I can see that it's playing, and I've checked all of my devices and everything, but for some reason I can only hear the background music if I'm actually listening to the stream, and apparently it's a known issue with OBS, so every time I need to check the level, I have to actually listen to myself with a bit of a latency. Alright, let's have a look at what's going on in some of these commodities. We have COMEX closing in about 28 minutes here, neutral day on copper. So maybe if we get down to this average session range low, which is currently sitting at 576.75, maybe there's another fade to be had. We had a pretty decent reversal into the London close, so that would be, if I was in on that, that would be coming to target now, but I was snoozing and had to rest a little bit. It's been a long week already. Now the other alternative is that we wait for, again, another 28 minutes and see whether this crude oil can reach that 80 level. I was mentioning it today on my Metal Market show on Top Step TV. And we're here. So on the first try, they did touch it and immediately shied away from it. Still remains an area of interest, so we're going to wait and see if they can retouch that and then stare at Bookmap and see whether we can snipe another little trade. But yeah, same levels from this morning, nothing has changed. Copper pretty range bound. Alright, let's see who's in chat. Let's say hi to everyone. We've got Raphael Walshy, we've got Keith, Trade Like a Bot, Sand Kuchen, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Storm Horace Money. Awesome. Alright. NQ is dumping right now. Not really an equities trader. I don't know why, but I just do not resonate with most equities apart from DAX. ES is a bit too slow for me these days. NQ is too fast. DAX is kind of just in that sweet spot. But I trade that earlier in the day. Eloisa's joined us. Hello, hello. Nice trade today, Eloisa. That was very well managed, very calm. Everything lined up. Right, at some point I'm going to try and get rid of these shades. I'm not going to be one of the people who's like, oh yeah, let's just let's see if I can, because I'm trying to stream like vertically as well, but on the vertical display you can't see my mug, and now you can. There we go. Middle of the middle, diddling in the middle. Here I am. Terminator vibes, yes. Yeah, FTSE is also okay. For some reason I prefer DAX. I don't know whether FTSE still, because when I was trading it a lot, FTSE still had that cutoff point for the London close, and then you couldn't get out of positions, and it had a lot of day-to-day gaps, so I didn't really like that. And then DAX opened up the overnight trading probably about, what, 2-3 years ago? And I think that's why I gravitated even more to that. So I don't know whether FTSE went the same way. If you traded, let me know. Do they still have the nonsense old school early close? Not even the ES. I'm finding ES a bit slow. I don't know. I do have a, sliding scale of it's too fast or it's way too slow. And every product that I trade has to fall in the middle, where I'm comfortable enough with the amount of, like for example, I can't trade corn for the same reason. I find it painfully slow. I don't know, maybe once I get to 80 years old, you know, give me another 35 years or so. Once I'm 80, I'll be like, let's trade corn. Let's trade corn. Because, you know, the more we age, the more our brains slow down. And maybe if you're like older trader but just started to trade recently, maybe that could still be, you know, super exciting to trade NQ and stuff. But you know, I've been staring at the markets for 20 years now, and it's like, ugh, I just want something that is sensible. I don't want to enter a position and it starts yo-yoing around my entry. That's like, ugh, horrible. Just make up your mind. And this coming from a crude oil trader, right? Now, I haven't traded crude oil probably for about 2 years since it died on us. Now it seems to be back, so now it's tradable again. We are working with, let's see what this thing says, with average range of 330. That's very tasty. Let me just do this. There we go, that's better. But today we've actually moved 500 ticks. That's a very, very respectable range. But that also calls for smaller size and wider stops. So we're gonna see if we can maybe take a stab at it if it comes back to 80. If it doesn't come back to 80, we're just gonna sit here and chat. I'm not gonna be FOMOing into anything. And typically if it's gonna be a reversal, they should really touch it again, because that's where the hedging point is, not here at 79.15. 15? Yeah. These shades are pretty dark and they're good, but sometimes the numbers are very tiny. Trade like a bot says NQ is the ultimate casino. I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, I've met people who are very good at it, right? One of them being Rips, the other one being Nick for a tick. They're both like great. That's perfect for them. But I want to stay in longer. I seem to tilt if I try and scalp that way. And I don't know how you know, some people can just do, you know, a couple of scalps a day. I would be like, is that all I took? It's pathetic. But it, you know, it can be profitable for the right kind of people. I'm just not one of them. I need to have conviction, and unless I can take, like, you know, in a day where something's moving, unless I can take about 25, 30 to 40% of the range, statistical range, I'm just not happy. The only exception to that would be like a range-bound day. In that case, I'm okay with scalps. But even that took a hell of a long time to get better at. I was just a mean reversion trader. And I think in my core I still am. But things change, right? Skills grow, things change. Oi, don't burn my sofa. Burn it. Yeah, the puppy cam over there. Don't know whether you can see Bernard trying to scratch my sofa. Oi! Oh no, that's 7. Yeah, that's 7. Where's Bernard? Bernard was there. I keep mixing up my black and tan dogs. They look kind of similar. One of them is a female. She's kind of middle-sized. Then we have a tiny little boy, Manny. And then we have the big boy Bernard, who's like a giant for what he is. And usually he's on the sofa, but now it's 7. And she decided to ruin my nice king living sofa. Like, when you pay for it, you can ruin it. That's the deal. Trinity from Matrix. Yeah, I should have worn like a long leather coat. Do I even have a long leather coat? I might do. We used to do these shows when I was a musician, where everybody was supposed to wear like long leather coats, kind of to be a bit matrixy. But I don't know whether I kept that. Maybe I'll dig it out for the next stream. Right, so now I'm seeing a little bit of an attempt of absorption on crude oil. It's 79.10. Absorption, why do I say that? Because this big candle here, well, not candle, bubble, the big ball, is pretty evenly colored, right? That spells absorption. Now, if we get the next consecutive few bubbles also going higher, if I was a scalper, that could be a scalp back up to 80, but because I'm not, we're gonna give that up and we're gonna wait until it actually hits 80. But if the delta doesn't move, then they're not going all the way back. Instead, we could expect more downside. However, consecutive bars, consecutive bubbles is what we're looking for that final push to 80, and then we may have our setup. So that's one of the ways to read Bookmap. Smushing cumulative volume delta and real-time order flow with the auction theory order flow and the larger time frame order flow. A lot of order flow. Orders flowing everywhere. Joshua, giving me an emoji with the shades. Thank you. Kurt says thanks for live streaming. Mark Stalker D, you're very welcome. Obviously with my slight energy problems, I had to take a couple of weeks off, so I do apologize. I really thought I was like stronger, better, and then 10 days ago I started feeling a bit off again. So I'm like, no. And today I feel okay, you know, apart from the light sensitivity. And I still have to have a nap, so that's a bit annoying. Otherwise I probably would have traded some of the copper in the afternoon, but it wasn't to be. I was only meant to like shut my eyes for 30 minutes and that turned into 2 hours sleep. Oh, joys of myalgic encephalomyelitis. Alright, so no consecutive bars yet, but they are kind of trying to move this this delta off the dead point here. Off the lows, localized lows. So yeah, I think we've got a good chance of going back to 80. I'm gonna be here until 7:30, that's like 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. GMT. Next week, I might have to start this stream an hour earlier for me. So if you're in the UK or EU, it's because of the daylight saving. So maybe we'll have it. Obviously, Eastern time is going to be still 1 p.m. But over here, until we also do the whole daylight savings clock switch, it's going to have to be a little bit out of sync. But we have to go with the settlement times because that's what I love trading. Settlement time is by far the highest probabilities setups for me. And I kind of find it very easy to read what they're trying to do. I don't know why I'm like that. I seem to be like topsy-turvy. The opposite to everybody else. I hold my trades until the cows come home. I don't like the open. I like the end of the day. That's just me being a left-handed person, I think. Do we have any left-handed people in here? Any lefty brothers and sisters? Keith said, I didn't think you would do it anymore with the market, metal markets time change. No, I'm still going to do it once a week. It's just that, you know, if I'm really run over, there's no point. I'm just going to sit here like a lemon and just go, I'm entering a trade. Like, I'm not going to be very engaging, right? But actually, the time change has been good both for the setups and, you know, seeing what the markets are actually doing when they start moving in that pre-market phase. But also better for me to kind of gather my thoughts in the morning. Even though I'm awake, somehow my brain just doesn't work. Like, you can tell hopefully you can tell the difference in energy levels. When I had to do it pretty early, I would be like, good morning, welcome to the Euro trade. I'm still waking up. And then towards the end of the stream, I would be like finally awake. It's like, But now this is perfect because I have time to have my coffees and, you know, to wake up, get a bit of fresh air outside, and to just gather my brain, you know, so I can do. And by then I'm probably already, you know, already done like either an Asia trade or a very early London fake out breakout trade. So it's not like I'm not active as a trader. It's just that for some reason the speech is just, doesn't really come in until much later in the day. I think that's just me being a night owl in general, because I was an ultra night owl. You know how they have the chronotypes? They have the locks who get up like super early, and that's like totally natural for them. Then you have kind of like in the middle people where they are kind of awake, but they can kind of function whenever they want. However, me, I was a super late person. I used to go to bed at like 5-6 a.m. and then sleep until midday, 1 p.m. And that's also because I was a musician. All right, so we have quite a number of look at this. Can you see the dome? 238 contracts sitting in 80. So that's going to be like an institution and or market makers. So a lot of size there. Now what crude oil typically does, it tends to reach it and then fill some of them if this is a genuine order, and I think it is because we're getting closer and they're not really disappearing yet. So that is definitely an area of interest for them. Now, if they run through it and they don't even stop, that's going to be a gamma squeeze, and we don't really want to trade that. But if we get to another sort of 11, 12 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes, and they're not moving off 80, and then we slowly start to dip below it, start to get the bubbles to the opposite side, delta starts dropping, that's when we want to strike, right? Now, because crude oil is pretty volatile, we're going to be in micros if we get the setup. If it runs further than 80 and if it just starts screaming to the upside because of some news or something, I'm probably just going to stay out of it because that's not on my plan. And yes, it might carry on, but past 80 today, I just don't have any other levels to fall back on. Let me just have another look higher. We do. Okay, we do. I lie. We do have it, but it's like sitting up at 85 evens, which is like another 500 ticks. I'm not chasing that today. It's not time yet for the reversal. It's still pretty early. So we have at least another 10 minutes to wait until the right time of day when these sort of setups are occurring. And for copper, like I said, we need to get down to this average session range low. So I'm effectively looking for a takeout of this low here. Then maybe we have a super slow turtle style trade, the tortoise trade, to crawl back up. And that one takes, 2-3 hours to actually start moving properly. But you can easily get 2R from those. They are pretty smooth, and then you have to watch the last half an hour of New York Stock Exchange because they do yet another squiggle down run by that time. And some days those timings are going to be within an hour or so, but the starting point absolutely has to be like for example, for crude oil, it has to start only in about 9 minutes time. So if I was a bot and if I said only look for entries after 6:30 my time, the bot won't even start the listening block until clock strikes 6:30. So we have to aim to train ourselves to be the same way. If you're working with the market stalkers method, like Eloisa, you had a question today in the portal. Maybe the entry should have been earlier. Yeah, maybe today. But if you look at the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years of copper, what happens on most days is that pre-NY cut, they usually create a false low. And then after NY cut, they smash it through and then only reverse it. So today was an earlier reversal into the failed auction. That's this one. So let's just look at that. So if I use my Blahtech backtest mode and we kind of drag it back, this is the initial balance for COMEX. Then post NY cut is somewhere here. So once the NY cut strikes, you can look at the move, but on most days what they will do is they kind of create this kind of big buy candle, and then the very next one they go all the way down, wick it, and then the real failed auction starts. So I'm always a little bit careful of that, because I've been caught in thinking that it's an early failed auction so many times, and I would enter outside of my time zones and then it would smack me on the face, only to find out that I was right, if only I had waited a little bit longer for the correct time of day. So I don't mind missing out on, you know, some ticks if it's outside of my day trading time zones, because it's just not, you know, it's not within the stats. However, this one, it hit VWAP, went into a neutral day. So here's a neutral day. So these blue things are extensions of the initial bounce to both sides. That means you have something pulling, like a rubber band pulling on both ends, right? And we actually briefly had a single print. The backtest only works on 30 minutes. Maybe I could mess around with it to show you, but basically there was a single print left behind. The trick with single prints is that until you have the next TPO, they are not really kind of confirmed single prints, because this sort of thing can happen. It can run back through the single prints and chew them up, and then it's not a single print, then it's structure. And then in the subsequent time, we actually started to see that VWAP is being resistant, and really only after the LME close at my 5 p.m. They started to reverse it back towards the initial balance and inside it. But because it's a neutral day, we don't do middle of the middle trades. You want to be on the extremes. So now, let's say this happened a little earlier in the day, you would have this area as your potential short, and this area to the downside as your potential longs, right? Day types. Yeah, it took the entire IB because we had an IB that is kind of small-ish. You know, we are working with 178 ticks for the average session range for COMEX, just the COMEX hours. But the initial balance was only 82. And really you would want the initial balance to have at least like 2/3 of the range if you're going to be looking at a failed auction. However, the opposite is true as well. You have the other extreme where the initial balance is so large that it's already the full range, and sometimes even massively overshooting the range. Well, on those days, it's very likely you're going to be looking at a P-shape or a B-shape day, depending on whether it went up or down. And then what you can do is take the developing value, which are these, they are these orange lines. So here's one. And the top one is overlapping this gamma flip area at 584. Right where VWAP is, that would be your value high. So you can then sometimes use that on a B or P shaped day and then try to wait until the market rotates through that new distribution curve effectively that is still developing, and use those to go with the direction of the P or B shaped day. So you don't go against it, you go with it. And that requires a little bit of waiting, a little bit of patience, but it's a pretty systematic way of grappling with the initial balance that went massively, massively higher. So there's always a way. There's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Right, let me switch off the backtest mode. Right, crude oil still battling that 80 level. And they now have somebody's chasing. Oh, that's hilarious. Is that just funny? Alright, so let me show you this. So I have the dome here. Now these guys that are in 101, they want 133 contracts, right? see if I can make this a bit bigger. They chased, so they were at 80 to 80-20, and now this is the institution chasing. So I don't know whether they're now underwater. So this is what could be happening here. I'm not going to trade this because I don't really like doing breakouts. But whenever you get these sort of squeezes, this is why I said it could be a gamma squeeze. The dealers were short calls at 80, okay? So they want the price to stay below 80. If the price starts running higher, they can be wrong too, right? But what's happening now is that they could be under-hedged, and now their short call, as their core position, is losing money. So they now have to keep buying futures outright if this move continues, and they have to keep buying and keep buying and keep buying, which will amplify this movement up. But I don't like doing the breakouts like that because they are generally not frequently occurring events. And also, in a blink of an eye, they could actually take off some positions and then it just all rolls back. So we'll see, again, a little bit too early. We have another 2 minutes before we can start monitoring things. But for now, it does look like our dealer friends might be scrambling to get back to delta neutral state. And we are also in an asymmetrical, in an outlier day, not asymmetrical, outlier day. Why? Because we touched this average daily range high, never really went below it. However, hedging into settlement is still a thing, so I do not want to willy-nilly change my plan and just go, hey, I want to do the gamma squeeze now. Because like I said, this time of day, maybe if it was, you know, closer just to like 7 p.m., so another half an hour, and they stay up, maybe if I can find a smaller gamma level, we can use that to bounce off of it. Or if they retest 80 and then they hold, that could become a new support. But right now, 76 ticks higher, 79 ticks higher, we've got nothing else to do. However, like I said, 2 possibilities. If this is really a hedge, then they should come back to retest 80 at some point, and then we'll see them flying back in on Bookmap. But for now, it's a no-go. So that's how you kind of stay out of trouble and you don't trade things that are outside of your plan. Something happens that you kind of know it's a possibility, but it's also a low occurrence event. You don't chase it and go, oh my god, it's moving, I must get in, I must get in. You go, okay, so what can we do now? And then you take yourself through the new plan, you take yourself through the objectivity, and then you try to find the nearest GEX level where you can lean on, maybe on a pullback, for new support. Alright, 15 seconds, and then we'll know in the next 30 minutes what they want to do with this. Or maybe we set our sights on copper, because that one's nicely dripping towards this low of the session. Or it could be no more trades. That could also be the case. We don't have to trade every day. And I already did some trades earlier, so don't necessarily have to trade. It would be nice if I did find a trade, but it's not always the case. Let's see, Joshua, hello. He says, hi Dee, do you have data on the New York cut, NYC? Do you mean New York cut, or do you just mean NYSE? So are you on the Market Stalkers method, so therefore we're talking post NY cut? Or are you just referencing New York Stock Exchange or something? You can clarify. But Joshua is asking, do you have stats on the New York initial balance breakout and retest of the high-low? Usually on my products, like copper, crude oil, silver, gold, If you get a breakout and then the retest, generally that means you're in danger of a failed auction, which does happen 70% of the time. On crude oil, it actually happens closer to 77% of the time, especially if it's with the trend. So now we have an uptrend. Therefore, if we smash through the initial balance low and came back towards it, that would open up a possibility for a failed auction long. The way this looks now, the way it looked before, so here is, let's go back actually. Let's go back. There it is. If you can see that we never actually even dipped much into it. We also had a really interesting level of average daily range high, and that didn't even give way. So that was some sign of strength there. And again, knowing that we have this overhanging 80 level that was the magnet, it wouldn't have been a good idea to fade the auction ahead of that. Does that make sense? But generally, if you have something like ES, you will find that it tries to fail the auction, then it goes kind of a third to a half into the initial balance, and then it bounces back out of it, especially if it's a long. So it tries a short, right? So we have the initial balance, it tries a short, then it goes, wah, 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 and everybody's thinking, failed the auction! But then it just turns around and carries on higher. It's like, so I call that strength inside the initial balance, or SEEB. Most of my market stalkers know about that. And it's basically looking for that pullback into the initial balance to a degree before it carries on whatever it was doing before. And that's a very equities kind of thing. However, copper, silver, and gold will actually do the same thing. If you look at the Tokyo initial balance as your reference, so basically just before Shanghai Exchange opens, it will frequently try to run one way, but if it doesn't run away too far, you will then see a pullback into 50% of initial balance and then yet another reversal. That's a very good metals play overnight. Okay, let's see if they start to... We've just had some buyer exhaustion on Bookmap. So a sweep, and then this is a buyer exhaustion. So they're exhausted, they're knackered from buying oil. Phew, I'm very tired. But again, until 80 gives way, I can't run a trade because I need 80 to break down. I also need this single prince to fuck off if I'm going to short this. I do swear on this stream. I keep it very professional on Tops of TV. But over here you will hear a little bit more profanity. Not like a lot, but you know, a little bit. Just to keep it a bit more real. Keeping it real, innit? Sanim says ES got me on that one today. Yeah, so this is how you use this, right? If you've seen something happening, you're like, right, I tried to use the initial balance, it tried to fail the auction, but it actually pulled back, shook me out, and then it carried on. Put that in your journal, and then you go, okay, let me see how deep it pulled back into initial balance. So write that down. Was it 30%? Was it 50%? Was it 70%? That can happen too. And then figure out whether there was a level in there. Was there a VWAP halfway through it? Like, let's have a look at ES. I literally haven't even looked at it today, so we can do this analysis together. Yeah, so there was a VWAP. All right. Which happened, that happened a bit later in the day. Sorry about the white charts, can't be bothered to put them in black. But let's analyze this. So here is exactly that. I did not look at this today, but it is a very, very common play in equities. DAX does this a lot. So we established the initial balance. It goes lower, and you're thinking, right, this is a failed auction. And then the very next candle, they keep selling it. Now, this is risk off. We did have the value area all the way up here from the previous day, and we had a mean reversion back to value, like full of fake signals today, but we also had settlement here. Never actually got to settlement. That's a sign of a potentially bearish market. They should really push it to settlement if it's this close. They didn't, and immediately rejected the value from yesterday. Tried to go into a failed auction. So here's another thing you can use. If you're opening below value and the auction is failing against that direction, right? So you're going long instead of short. That's actually a much lower probability setup. Okay, so anything that is far enough from value that completes the mean reversion during the initial balance, but then ultimately fails, like goes all the way back down, then fails the auction. The highest probability on these sort of days is that we're going to go into sustained auction lower at some point. Now, on this one, it was a weakness inside initial balance. And you had maybe something here. I don't know whether there's any levels today, so we can also take a look at the options as this was happening. Yeah, so there was a put support, so there was a lot of hedging going on. I did see that some CTAs in NASDAQ were jumping out of NASDAQ. ES was still looking reasonably strong, but crude oil up, equities down. That is a classic risk-off sentiment. Risk off. That means some headline risk is happening. Obviously, we have the Middle East conflict, and we are going to have more of these risk off days. Risk off is characterized by the risk products such as crude oil, gold, typically going up, and equities going down. So if you had that context, you could have gone, we're opening below value. We completed the mean reversion, didn't really reach settlement. And then we went into a failed auction long. Maybe, just maybe, this is a fake out. So you see how that structured plan of step 1, step 2, step 3, you suddenly start to get a clearer picture of what's going on. Now, this is what I'm trying to create with my market stalkers, right? You want to take the open sentiments. So where are we opening in relation to the value area? Where are we, how do we behave when the open came? And this one was a classic mean reversion. Yes, it could have gone into a value acceptance for sure, but you had this little tidbit of information that settlement was actually not reached. Now, I use the settlement as it is on, this is not the close, this is the actual settlement line, and that's VWAP at a certain time of day for equities. That is actually between 14th and 15 minutes after the close. They kind of plonk settlement price in equities. If you kind of smush all of that, you also had a 4-hour Q high. Where's my minus? There it is. So 4-hour Q high. What is that? That is a swing extreme from a larger time frame. From some larger time frame. We also tested a 4-hour supply, rejected it. This was very early during Asia, and then it just threw up from there. So now, longing against this is very difficult. Maybe you can long it safer if it gets to like the last half an hour, but it all depends on what the delta is doing on ES. And at the moment, I don't have it on Bookmap, but I can call it. And don't forget, we've got the rollover starting as well. So, March is ending, and we're going to be rolling into the next contract over the next couple of weeks or so. So let's have a look at this delta. Let it populate a bit more, because I've literally just opened it. Okay, so for me, delta is not negative enough today to call a potential mean reversion towards the end of the day. It's only minus 385. And because it's an equity index, of course, they can smash it back up. You can always have some bargain hunters there. But for me, I would be trying to fade this somewhere. So maybe, let's have a look at what else do we have from levels. So the first area would be maybe 6,800, in and around this area. Maybe if it smashes above the high, which is at 68.04 half. Quite possibly even smashing into this supply, because this is a strong enough supply. This is a drop base drop, and normally on a lower time frame I wouldn't be saying use the base area for an entry, but you know, if they manage to get into this area, and I'm gonna guess that on the volume profile, that's a pretty thick area today. Let's have a look at Top Step actually, because they have a nice easy way to look at the fixed volume profile. It's kind of similar to the TPO profile. That's the indicators for fixed range. Okay, so where's 230? There it is. So let's have a look. Yeah, so this area is much thicker. So you have a little hole here. You have a little cave, tiny cave. If you can see it. This is an area of thin volume. And maybe once they close that out, you can have a look at this edge as your first point of reference. Is look at the developing value low as a potential re-entry. Why? Because we also have the supply, and they will be closing out the thin area of liquidity, smashing into this, and maybe some more shorts. So that would be something I'm looking at if I was trading ES. But full disclosure, I don't trade ES that often. However, that's some of the ways that I used to trade it when it kind of runs away on the day. But I wouldn't be trying to long this on a day when we open below value, extend it into a single-sided extension of the initial balance, and effectively went into a risk-off sentiment because of the Middle East conflict. So just a few things to keep in mind. Let's get rid of this. How do I get rid of this? There we go. But yeah, more shorts at some point. Alright, so copper's not playing ball. They're not going down to my level of interest. Since this is the middle of the middle on a neutral day, I am not really interested in that. So we're still going to see whether this crude oil might get down to 80. And if not, we stay out. You don't chase. Do not chase. Alright, let's see if I can survive without these shades. Christ. Ah! Alright, I think we'll be cool. My eyes have rested enough. I might be crying from the bright lights, but we'll see. And somebody asked me how can I see anything through the shades? Do you know how bright the lights are for the streams? It's like somebody giving you like an interrogation. Like, yeah. Very bright, very bright. I've got two Elgato key lights. One is there, another one is here. Just for like a bit of highlight and in mood ambiance. So yeah, I can't see, like the only thing I can't see is if like the numbers are super small, then I'm like, I need to have a look. And depending on how tired my eyes are, sometimes I need my readers, these things. I actually bought them specifically for the sake of streams and stuff, because I want them anti-glare, and then all of my glasses are anti-glare. But then somebody accused me of wearing glasses without lenses, because when I put these on and I position myself a certain way, you can't see the glare, and they assumed that they have no lenses. But if I go like this, you can then see it. However, you can place your lights in a particular way so that the glare doesn't happen, and get the anti-glare, obviously. This is for my streamer friends, if you're thinking of starting a YouTube stream. Shinobi says, your stalking levels are amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Alright, let's go. It's very nice, very kind. Very kind. Senkuchen says, pardon, what app do you use just now for monitoring buying and sell power? So that's Bookmap. That's these bubbles. Bubble. Now, I usually have it connected to like a random eval where I can pay for level 2 data and then get it for, you know, slightly cheaper. And the connection between TraderBait and Bookmap to me is super seamless, and I actually know what symbols I'm looking at. I tried, because I do pay for their Global Plus service, which is I think it's about $82 a month. I can never find anything on that DX feed of theirs. Like, I'm sorry, but one day I spent 20 minutes looking for the correct contract, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Just use CQG or something that makes sense. But no, they use like these weird things, and they have a million contracts. They have all of the months, because obviously some people do spreads between, like calendar spreads between different months and stuff. And I get it, but I can never find anything. So to me, that was way too labor intensive. So I'm like, you know what? I have these evals that you know, they're just sitting there. So I might just connect it through TraderBait, and I get Eurex, I get all of the COMEX, NYMEX, New York Stock Exchange, all the products that I want without having to pay extra for them. So yeah, come on, crude oil, come back. No FOMO, no FOMO. Alright, so now the bigger players are not really there on the dome. Like you see, there's 54 contracts, 20, 13, 21. So maybe they're running out of steam here. Time will tell. Time will tell. I'm just going to have a look at mental queue as well, in case there's like smaller levels. Because all I've got is my anchor points on this little app on the little indicator that I created for myself. The one that smushes all the anchor points and gives them weights, and then I just use those as orientation. Do I ever port my TPO charts to Ninja? I'm still interested. We're working on that, Dave. It proved to be a lot more difficult. You know what? My eyes are still really fucked. So I have to like get my matrix glasses back on. We are still working on that. We initially thought, oh, we can just, you know, look at the architecture and, you know, put the new library in and that'll be it. We literally had to redesign every single thing from scratch. And then the team started looking into all the architecture. So then they were like, oh my God, we've done so many updates over the last like 10, 11 years that they've been in business. And eventually, they realized that there are some bodged pieces of code that work, but they have a new way of doing things. So they're cleaning up the code, and they literally had to re-engineer everything from scratch. So that's why it's taking forever and a day to get our indicators into Ninja. But we are still working on it. It is on the cards. And what we're doing now is trying to make the indicators more modular, so that whatever platform crops up on the market all of a sudden, we can basically just move the indicators onto that and give you a bigger way of bigger choice of where you're going to put our Blahtech software. So that is something to keep in mind. Yeah, so ES selling off now. Didn't even reach that thin area. So it just smacked into a former ASR low on a back test, and they can't even reach. This is like a very, very weak market. So because of that, I probably won't be getting involved in short crude oil. Instead, I do want to wait for it to retest 80 and then maybe use it as a springboard for further upside. But at the same time, at this point, that won't be a swing. It will be just catching wherever we are, wherever we make a new high. That will become sort of a loose area for any kind of target. So whatever that is, it's going to be a smaller trade if we do get it. But for now, they're still hanging above it. And until there's a retest of that level, there's nothing for me to do but talk to you and diagnose the chart and try to make sense of it. But we don't chase. We do not chase. We do not chase. We just kind of had to sit it out sometimes and watch it go without us. Hate watching crude oil as it goes without us. No. Just, you know, take it as a gamma squeeze, and that it's very late in the day, and that if we get the level, we get the level. We don't get the level, we stay out. We stay out. It's only one day, right? And tomorrow's Friday. It's NFP Friday. Anything can happen. I don't stream the metal markets on Fridays, but I do still look at the markets, and I still might trade. But on Fridays, I usually won't even look at the chart until it's closer to the London close. So I'm gonna have a nice big lie-in, walk the dogs, then come back and start staring at the charts, whatever we have at that point. We might still get this copper trade. I don't know if they make a move, because copper has been moving after hours. It moves slower, but it still moves, so that's still a possibility. I just needed to smash into the opposite side of this initial balance. There is still chance. Yeah, but ES, I wouldn't mess with longs until we're like half an hour, maybe even last 10 minutes, depends how it sets up. But yeah, it's all pretty doomsday looking. Still in the daily range. That's hilarious. So on the daily chart, and from here you will see how often I trade ES. So my ES trade. So I did one back in October, and I did one seemingly in February, or whenever this marker here is. That's hilarious. But yeah, look at the weekly chart. We still have this consolidation. They keep kind of popping below, dragging it back up, just kicking and screaming. What does the daily chart look like? Daily chart, bit of a barcode here, and yeah, this is this another range? Yeah, so that's what I thought. So here's the range that we have, right? So until we close well below, we need to close the day, one day, below this whole area. That might be finally breaking out of this range. If that doesn't happen, we're gonna have another bounce back up, and then another barcode. Oh joy. I don't think we've seen equities in this kind of a range for a long time. At least I don't remember it going on for like 4 or 5 months whilst I've been looking at it. Because I've been looking at ES since 2013. I don't trade it much now, but you know, I've had periods in my career where I did always trade ES towards the end of the day. So that's why I know how it moves, but not recently. Recently it's been a bit of a snooze fest. Joe Jacob says, oh, that's Joe, right? I tried shorting at 8, but did not work. Oh, at 80, but did not work. Yeah, because like I said this morning, there is a possibility for gamma squeeze. You know what, Rumor back? Rumor's coughing in the background. So whenever you have a massive news piece and war breaking out and stuff, there is always a possibility of gamma squeezes above the big levels. This is why the understanding of actual dealer events, it provides you additional context. So whilst I also want to short it, but I'm not going to short it just blindly, and I'm not going to short it before the end of the day either. Because to me this was reached very quickly. And then for crude oil, if you don't have a big reversal for the London close, and it doesn't just roll over for like, you know, 100, well, in this environment it would probably have to be well over 100 ticks, like 100, 200 ticks, 300 ticks. If that doesn't happen for London close, that's a bullish sign, right? So it's like you need to have that reversal, which is the post-NY cut. If that doesn't happen, that also provides context, or should provide context. But Joe, don't go hopping through different products. You're doing fine on copper. Don't start doing the grasshoppering by looking at something that I'm looking at without knowing how to trade it. Crude oil is very difficult to trade. I like it because obviously I've been watching it and trading it day after day after day from 2013 all the way till 2024, right? And the only reason why I stopped is because we started having $1 ranges. I'm not trading that crap, right? That's like too tight for me, and I'm not sitting in a trade where the second session of NY of the NYMEX exchange is stuck in a 35 tick range. I kid you not, in 2024 I was looking at my internet connection to see whether we're on. That's how slow crude oil was, and I'm like, what? So now we have a whole breed of people who have never experienced crude oil the way it was for years and years and years and years, and they're like, crude oil is really slow. So now they're like, what the fuck is happening? What is crude oil doing? And this is crude oil. This is what it does. This is the crude oil that I know and love, right? But that also means you have to be super careful, and you have to have an understanding of where the dealers are positioned. So whenever we say gamma wall, massive mega gamma wall, what does that mean? It means the dealers are short calls from there in this context, right? So when the prices go over that and we don't get a pretty good hedge from it, that means that a gamma squeeze could be on, because as soon as it goes above it, the gamma squeeze forces the dealers to buy more. That amplifies momentum above the gamma wall. But on any other day, if you don't have war in the Middle East and USA, getting involved, and Iran threatening with nuclear attacks on Britain and Germany and the USA, you could possibly look for weakness around 80. But if it doesn't happen for London, you should re-examine what's happening for the day range fill. So for me, yes, I was asleep through it, but when I came to analyze the market for this stream, the first thing that stood out to me is that we didn't roll over for the London close. So there was no post-NY cut reversal. And contextually, we also overshot the ADR high. So now we had two possibilities: that 80 is going to get reached again, which I said at the beginning of the stream. And second possibility is that the gamma squeeze is on, because risk off is still a sentiment today. Does that make sense? I don't know whether I'm just rambling on. Dave's Pirate Life. With ranges so big these days, how do you handle the ticks per row? I find it hard to fit my TPO chart without going to 8 TPO to fit. Okay, so I don't know whether you have our indicators, but there is this thing where you can... First of all, if you press T, it should start to compress the profile somewhat, but that's not always going to be enough on massive days. Then you have to mess around with the TPO size. So I'm going to show you that. So for example, TPO size, if it's on 0, that's just default, and the system is going to try and smush the TPOs to fit on the screen. But on massive days, that has its limitations, right? We can only smush so many pixels on the screen. And that's when you have to change the TPO size. So you can then play around. I don't know whether maybe 3 might be better. And then also try doing the T. So change it, try the T keyboard hotkey. And you can compress it 3 times. Whoops. That's the alarm. Don't know whether that came out on the stream. If it did, I'm sorry. I have a blaring alarm to remind me to close NYMEX positions if I'm in on any, and I'm not. So yeah, so change the TPO size and then go to T hotkey, and then see how much you want to smush it further, right? And this might be appropriate because it fits the TPO on the screen. So yeah. Hope that helps. Every product is going to have its own thing. So if you want to know what TPO size it is currently, you have this area here in the panel. Oh, you can't see that. Hold on. Let me move myself to the other side. So you have this little panel, And then at the very bottom of it, you have tick. That's the tick size. So you can see what it is and maybe use it as a guideline and then just start playing with that. So if the tick on copper is 0.0010, try 0.0020 or 30 or something. So that kind of gives you a guide of where you are at the moment. And same thing on crude oil. Tick size here where I compressed it, it's 0.06 size. Normally it's 0.01 when it's not moving this much, but that's where we're at. So there are plenty of kind of optimizations to do. Oh, another thing, I've noticed that the MT5 has done this weird update. Now they put out a patch for it, but initially it messed up the resolution, it messed up all the graphics and everything. They seem to have fixed that, but they've added a hotkey that is clashing with my hotkey for the market profile when you only want to do like one session, one active session rather than everything. So right now I have all of them. There is a workaround for that. So if you press H and you go to display, which stands for schedule display, there is that former / that used to be the hotkey. But if you want to get rid of the current all of the other TPOs from the other sessions, just click that a couple of times until you just have the active one. So that's the workaround. We're trying to deal with that bug at the moment, but we kind of jammed a lot of the hotkeys everywhere, so I'm not sure if we've got any hotkeys left that are unassigned, but we're gonna try and see whether we can do an update for that at some point. So it is on the cards, we are aware of it, but that's just one workaround. Alright, so they're still trying to push this crude oil up. Again, taking a breather. Buyers are taking a breather. There's some people who are jumping out of positions. So this is what Bookmap looks like. Still no absorption. 52 contracts sitting at 81. For now, that's been like the stopping point. So maybe we get a sell-off like right at the end of NYMEX, but maybe not. We'll see. Never got that retest of 80, so I don't think we're gonna get a trade here, guys and girls. It's just how it is sometimes. We don't always get perfect setups. There is no perfection, but at the same time, there's Muppet moments versus an acceptable setup. Right now, none of this is acceptable. And by the way, I disagree with that idea that you should always trade your A+ setups. So when are you going to trade? Your A+ setups are going to arrive like maybe like 5 times a month, and you're supposed to be an intraday trader. Yeah, slow clap. That's a great idea. For those of you who joined a little bit later and asking what the shades are for, I'm light sensitive today. I managed to get through the metal markets fine, but then I went to walk my dogs. And it was a sunny day, so that affected me. I have light sensitivity on some days. Not generally artificial lights, just daylight, that blue, screaming blue light. So that's a bit of a pain. And that's why I still wanted to do the stream. So I'm sitting in my robe because I had a nap. And I decided that I'm still going to show up, but I'm going to shield my eyes a little bit so that I don't get a migraine, because if I get a migraine they last for like 5-6 days and nothing really touches them. It's really horrible, and I really don't want a migraine this week. So yeah, Dave's part life. I took my first crude oil trade yesterday and got wrecked. welcome. Yes, that's crude oil. What stop loss are you using, Dave? Because at the moment I'm on 85 tick stop loss on crude oil. And I am being ultra careful with it, despite the largest stop loss, because this thing is running for $6-7 a day. That's 600 to 700 ticks. So obviously, even on an 85 tick stop, you still have to be super, super careful. So I suggest popping in like 1 micro on 85 ticks. That's $85 risk. And maybe do it in a practice account. You know, open up a practice account on TopStep and just mess around with it for a bit. But do follow these rules that I'm talking about. But when it's risk off, it is relentless, like absolutely relentless, and it just runs through everything. And then you get the gamma squeeze at an obvious level because they've got up to the gamma wall, and the gamma wall is still not enough. So everybody starts plowing in, and then market makers start reacting. They start buying. Case in point, right? And this is not going to stop, but this is risk. This is like, how do you limit risk? Well, you don't, really. You just watch it and go, okay, I understand what's happening, but I don't want to be involved because I don't want to be on the side when they decide to stop. And I don't have any good reference anymore here. So I have 80 as a reference. Everything else is pretty weak. And if they decide to close it out towards the settlement, which is still going to happen, maybe I'll pop in a trade after settlement and then wait for the longs to step back in. That's an option, right? But right now, what should be a day range fill fade is not on because of the gamma squeeze. So we have to understand. Don't know whether you've seen, I've added a lecture. I'm planning another even deeper lecture on the gamma, negative, positive gamma, and just going a little bit deeper into why it happens and how. Because I've introduced the GEX levels and I said this positive and negative gamma, but I think people want more clarification, so that's going to be another thing. Oh, and good news, we've just passed, again, our CPD renewal, because you have to renew it every sort of 3 years. And our one was coming up literally this February, so I had to resubmit everything, and I had to give them the exams that we have, give them, you know, how the whole thing is delivered, make sure that it's suitable for learners with disabilities. And I said, you know, we do have subtitles in most videos for like people who are hearing impaired, but I mean, this is the market, so I said I can't really cater to sight impaired people because you need to be able to see. So that was all fine. So we passed, and this time around, rather than like a general CPD hours, now we actually have assigned, we did it a slightly different way this time around, so now you can actually claim CPD hours per level. This is only pertinent to those people who are in professions that require CPD hours. Typically it'll be doctors and lawyers, famously. But for example, when I had my IAD certification, I also had to do 30 CPD hours in order to maintain the certification year by year. So at some point I said, fuck that, I don't have time to do that. However, I wanted to make sure that the course is CPD hours approved, and therefore if you are a doctor, a lawyer, or if you're in a profession that requires CPD hours, you can now claim them. It's international. So every country is, you're able to do that. And at the end of each level, there's a new section where you can actually go into our little mini website and you can claim your CPD hours through that. So you don't have to like look at their website or whatever. You just click on that, and it's like a sub-site on the CPD certification group. You can claim all of it from there. So making things easier for the professionals in the industry, because CPD hours be annoying. I took a guess and went with 50. Didn't work. Yeah, so you know you're on the market stalkers method. So we say take the average session range divided by 4, right? That is the basic default formula. So if we were to do that, 216 at the moment divided by 4, yeah, I mean it does say 54, but every day we have the expansion of the average daily range. That's another thing that I look for, the difference between the two. And if you take 334 and divide that by 4, you then get 83. So, and I round that up to 85. So that's where I got my 85 tick stop loss. If average session ranges are in vast contrast to the ADR, then take the ADR instead of the ASR. It's just like common sense. I didn't think I needed to put that. Maybe I should do another update and put that in the course, but this is why we have streams. You can ask questions, we can talk about it, and we can kind of do a little bit of tweaking. Because, look, another thing, you can have a look at what the ATR is. That's an indicator that's already included on a per candle basis, right? I have this on 9, and even here it is telling you that it's 100 ticks wide. So every average of 9 30-minute bars, it's 100 ticks. So it's insane, right? And that calls for, stop loss that is closer to that number. But yeah, dividing the ADR might be the way to go on crude oil whilst this craziness is happening. And maybe it remains, I don't know. But traditionally, crude oil tends to settle in the 350 tick range outside of the risk events. Now we're going through another explosion. And it's just, I think this is like the 4th day when we're having a 700 tick range. And this ain't stopping today, so. But why do I get this feeling? So now they're absorbing. There's an absorption happening. Why do I get this feeling they're gonna do this thing where they wait for 2 minutes before settlement? And now it's like 12 minutes past. So at 28 past, sometimes they wait and wait and wait, and they just take off all of the positions 2 minutes before settlement. And you see this huge dump into it. But then right after that, they start bringing it back up with the gamma squeeze. Not to the same degree, of course, but yeah, that could be the plan as well. So wait until settlement, wait for the big throw up. Let them throw up, do a bit of tactical chunder, as people like to call throwing up on a drinking night. At least they do in the UK. And then look for some longs. It's kind of what I might be doing today, because I'm not getting involved in this madness this close to settlement. Eloisa says, awesome, congrats on the certification. We've had the CPD certification for years, but the way it was done before, it was just like, oh, it's just a course, there you go. So, you had to communicate with the team to go, yeah, well, I've done this many hours and that many hours. Well, now that's all just like click, 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 and you get your 28 hours, 28 CPD hours for the entire course, but then you can do it by level as well. So I think it's, don't quote me on that. I put it on the website, so it is on there. I can actually have a look at it. This is why we have websites, right? So, so level 1 you get 7 CPD hours, level 2 is 8, and level 3 is 13, because it's the biggest one, right? And if we add another lecture, then I'm gonna have to recertify that. And it's probably gonna be on level 3 again, because we're expanding on the gamma conditions. So whoever is interested in that, I'm not going to push things because I absolutely hate the nonsense of hard sell. It is there underneath this video. So click on more, show more, expand. Just have a read through it, And no, it's not cheap. You can buy my short courses for peanuts, but this is something where I've like poured my soul out, and I give you like probably 90% of how I'm thinking and what levels I'm doing. And sure, there's practice to be had with it and context and stuff, which is why I still try to run these streams. But all of it is in there. It's like literally how I look at the markets, 4 different concepts, cornerstones, and how each of them relates to one another intraday. And I'm always trying to aim to improve that. So if there are more questions about something, like recently we'll be getting a lot of questions about more stuff about gamma levels. So this is why I'm preparing another one. And then once that's done, we're gonna have to resubmit level 3 for certification, but that's the nature of it. You just keep doing it. I might even create a new course, new exam, not a course, but an exam for existing gold members. You already have one in there. I think it's in level 2, but then level 3 is going to have stuff about gamma walls and gamma condition and some examples as well. Gamma squeeze, for example, like we have on crude oil today. 14 minutes until settlement. But yeah, no trade for day range fill, unfortunately. They're not filling the range, they're squeezing it. He says, well worth the money. Thank you. I'm very glad to hear that. I aim to serve. Ricardo says, IOD, nice to see you. Been a while. Ex-gold member here now. Finally getting consistent payouts. Thanks for that stuff you taught me. Cheers. You're very welcome. That's what we want to hear. There we go. Ricardo. Takes a while, guys. It takes a while. I've had people who have spent 2 years on the program and they worked at it. They worked in themselves. They did back testing. They tracked things in Edgewonk. They attached the setups that they're doing to the Edgewonk custom, because you can attach a setup to it, and then looked at the stats. These days you can probably, if you have the setup names, you can probably use AI or like Opus 4.6. So if you've had a journal, for example, that has a tag with it, and you said sustained auction, failed auction, neutral day fade, value acceptance setup, and if you kind of have those tags in your journal, and you can export it from, for example, Edgewonk, and then you can just go into an AI. I like Opus 4.6 because it has a lot of high reasoning stuff, and you don't have to explain it multiple times because it keeps getting things wrong. 4.6 is very functional. So I basically sometimes go, well, let's see what I suck at these days, and I put all of the journaling stuff that I do into it, and it tells you, well, you're trying sustained auctions, but that's actually harming your performance, and blah 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 blah. And then you get a really good idea of what's working, what's not working for your actual historical performance. Not mine, not anybody else's, but what you've actually done, which setups worked for you. Well, that's your strength. That's the ones that you need to focus on. You can even ask it to tell you what day is the best for you, what time of day you suck. I think I put that in the course. Looking at the days, time of day when it's when you're traditionally underperforming, you need to not trade during those times. I'm just gonna let the Cavalier out again. He's deaf and he wants out, so I'll be back in like literally a couple seconds. Right, we're back, kids, we're back. Alright, so we are having a little bit of a battle here around 81.19. No big orders anymore to the downside, at least not that I can see here. But again, absorption, so look at the pattern, you know, they run it higher, absorption, try to go higher, ultimately red candle, drop. Are they going to do the same? Run it back up, absorption, red candle, drop. Into a new high. But we'll see, we're getting really close to settlement now, really close, we've got 10 minutes. Gonna have a slurp of coffee, even though that means I won't sleep. We literally don't have anything of note in the options at 81. This is purely time of day. Getting close to settlement, and they're trying to run it back. But again, because of this pattern of them running it higher, then absorbing, then dropping, and then running it back up again, don't really fancy that. I still want to see that big drop into settlement, and then we can run along and then wait for it to drag itself back up. in light of the gamma squeeze and 80 being broken. And then that kind of a setup, you can usually run it till like the end of the day. You can leave it, if you're on Top Step, you can leave it for the auto liquidator. To be honest, even if you're at other firms like Trade Day, Apex or somewhere, you can also just leave it until that extra hour after the close. Because on days like these, they ain't stopping. Any kind of a pullback is only an opportunity to step back into longs. So yeah, let's wait until settlement. Maybe see whether they settle, wherever they settle. There's another option. So you see, we have these single prints here. Let me move this. We do have a set of single prints that were left behind once we broke 80. We can watch that zone for a drop, and then after settlement, see whether they are reversing again to the long side. So that's the only setup that I can see here. Copper has slowed down a lot, but never reached my level, so that's off the table. And in fact, we can get rid of copper now because that's too late. Karina says, many thanks, Dee, for sharing your knowledge with us, especially for ES back in initial balance. Yeah, it's a good play. Chart Master Mike says, this is one of my favorite educators. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And again, I'm sorry I can't stream more. You know, if I had my old self, I do get like these really horrible guilt moments where I'm like, I should be streaming. And I miss you guys. You know, I miss having the community. You know, I have the metal markets, and a lot of you are on there too. But somehow it's a different vibe. I don't know, when I have my market stalkers here, you know, we can talk specific setups, we have my charts. I don't have to like tell you to imagine where the TPOs are on Top Step. I don't have to mess around with fixed volume, but like, everything is just there, right? And so it's definitely a different vibe. And then, you know, on Top Step, there's like a code of conduct as well. Obviously, they're a big firm now. And it's, you know, we're trying to be more like newsy, kind of like news for futures traders. Whereas this is my channel, you're my peeps, you know, we can be more relaxed, sit in robes with shades on, smoking, chatting, swearing. It's much better. And I can tell you the actual setups, because if I even mention something like, you know, day range fill on Top Step TV, people would be like, Dee, what is day range fill? And then I have to go into like an hour's worth of explanation of why and how and where. And here you all know it, because you're my peeps. So it's a lot less laborious for me, because I don't have to pick and choose my words. Should we get Pete the Process Parrot while we're waiting for settlement? I did promise he's gonna make an appearance, didn't I? There he is. Get you by the beak. Get him by the beak. Don't squawk at me. Don't you dare. Do not squawk at me. I said don't squawk at me. I'm following the plan. What do you want? What do you want? I'm following the plan. Guys, don't slow down. If you didn't know, this is Pete, the Process Parrot, named by Coach Hoop. Because I like puppets and muppets and stuff, right? So I use them to illustrate my point. And Pete is here to make sure we don't do stupid things. Otherwise he's gonna peck. So yeah, follow the plan. We'll be okay. All good? Yes. Okay. He made an appearance. There he is. My Crichton actually is dying to get a hold of this, and I know if he does, he's just gonna rip it to shreds. So we don't want that. So therefore, I have to keep it high above my screens, out of reach of Crichton. Crichton is one of my dogs, by the way. So he is very partial to anything red and fluffy. Loves fluffy things. Have I tried... I can never pronounce that word. I know what it is. It's a resin. I have. It did absolutely nothing for me. I tried black seed oil. I tried Mito Q, which is kind of like a stronger version of ubiquinol. It made me so jittery. I couldn't sleep for days. I tried Nupept. I tried the brain retraining. That did fuck all. What else did I try? I literally, like, you name it, I fucking tried it, right? Of course I did, because I'm trying to get better. Nothing worked apart from a couple of things. Daily antihistamine and minocycline at a very low dosage. I've been on minocycline now for 2 years. That's the only reason why I'm out of bed and why I'm even here and why I can even do the Top Step TV. Otherwise, I don't quite know what my life would look like today, to be honest, if I didn't find that. There is a study where they took a number of ME people and they tested minocycline for its neuromodulatory properties because it does something to the brain. Apparently it's one of the antibiotics that can cross the blood-brain barrier a lot easier. It's maybe a smaller molecule or something. And it has a calming effect on this thing called the microglia. We're gonna go into like medical stuff now. And microglia, you have good microglia and bad microglia, and there are some studies that show that those of us with this horrible illness, we have the bad microglia activation, which is also found in Alzheimer's patients, by the way. But it's not supposed to activate until you're like very, very old. But for some reason in us, it just runs riot. It's horrible. So minocycline has an effect of effectively killing those bad microglia. And I think this is why I've gotten a little bit better on it. Certainly got me out of bed. Like now, even though I still need naps every so often, my sleep at night is both better and worse. I mean, I used to sleep for like 13 hours, then wake up, and then need another 2 hours nap, then another bit of work, and then another 2 hours nap. So that's kind of changed now. I can actually completely, yeah. You see what they're doing. You see what they're doing. I said 2 minutes to go. They're gonna step in. It's exactly what they're doing. Absolute bastards. Why do you wait for 2 minutes after? It used to happen 45 minutes after. And look at the madness with settlement. This is what settlement looks like on Bookmap. Printing, printing, printing! We're printing ticks! But yeah, so I do sleep about 6-7 hours. Then I kind of wake up between like sort of 5 and 6 a.m. and that's usually when I get up and try to do my post-Tokyo trade. Then I go back to bed and I can sleep maybe for another hour and that's it. I can be functional for at least 6 hours after that. So that's gotten better. Before it was like 2 hours that I'm knackered again. I'm just like, I have to lie down. So yeah, we're just taking it day by day, you know. Whatever future brings, I'm just going to have to deal with it because it's the nature of a chronic disease. Am I happy about it? No. Am I super depressed about it? Well, I can't be because that's just a waste of fucking energy, isn't it? So now the Cavalier wants back inside. He can wait. A lot of red line business there on the chart. Yeah, that's the settlement. Everybody's plowing in. They're trying to get out, trying to get out, trying to get out. And then it settles after settlement. I have to let the Cavalier back in because he's not going to stop. Because he's stubborn and deaf. You know what I am? I'm a glorified doorman for dogs. It's my primary decision, primary vocation in life. All right, so let's see if now that they've settled, let's see if they're gonna try and push it back up. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go into because this is not a good enough setup. to try running like some massive swings. So we're gonna go into our top step combine thingy here, and we're going to pop in 85 ticks, 3 micros, pop in a trade to see whether they start running it back. And I'm still practicing my scaling in, so I'm just gonna measure that. The scaling points for this is going to be 15 ticks and then 24, no more than 24. Okay, so stop buy. And 24. Stop buy. And now we wait, and now if they take it all the way back down, it's going to be only a small loss, or I'm going to take it off early, but gamma squeeze should still be on. I do expect some drawdown here, but ultimately they should just start running it back up, because we've got nothing here. Like, there's nothing until much higher. So they're probably going to do a fake out pullback, and then get everybody to plow in short, and then they're gonna start again. So looking at Delta now. So Delta didn't really make much of a dent, right? So this was the low of Delta. If this pullback goes with the Delta and they kind of take out this low in Delta, so they shave off a lot of it, then I might be closing it early. But for now, I'm just gonna try and stay in on this for as long as it allows me, and see whether they can pull this back higher into the end of the day. This is probably not going to be the trade where, you know, we're going to be waiting and waiting and waiting for the target whilst I'm on the stream. This is probably something I'm going to keep running until the auto liquidator steps in. And then we'll see. But I'm gonna put the markers on for the core position. If it survives, it survives. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm not willing to short this right now. So let's see, 81.10 I think it was. Is that my entry? No, 81.07. 81.07. So 81.07 was the entry. And the stop loss is at 80.22. Gonna change this to yellow because I can't see. Usually I have it on on blue on my white charts, but because we're not on white charts, and because this is so high up, I'm also going to do another thing here, because we're like sticking at the bottom of the screen here. It's almost going to leave my screen. So I'm going to do scale fix, and I'm going to have it at 85. What that's going to do is going to move everything further down, and then it gives me this ability to move the chart like you can on TradingView. And there's going to be a little bit of drama here, because there's going to be some people who are like, all right, it's finally short, let's go short, but it's a gamma squeeze, so and then they get smacked on the face because their stops turn into more positive gamma because it's the buy, and it fuels the rally. Genius K says, this is the hardest part about metals trading. What was I talking about? Oh, which Muppet is my favorite? Ooh, I've gotta say either Rolf or Animal. I don't think I can choose between the two, because they're both awesome and they're both musicians, so you know, close to my heart. And we're gonna hang here more. Let's do another half an hour. Let's make it a really long stream. We've got nowhere else to be tonight, so we can hang. And I love these markers that don't have like the P&L attached to them, because it just kind of gives me an idea of how things are doing without watching at ticks or dollar amounts. It's literally just halfway point, entry, stop, no attachment to the P&L whatsoever. And it just keeps me sane. Also, every trade, doesn't matter what the size is, whether I'm in with 100 crude oils or with 3 minis, they look the same. They look the same. Alright, so look at the delta. So this was the big drop. Since then, delta is recovering super quickly. It's almost back to the drop point. Almost back. But this is going to be a slow one now, because it's going to be post-settlement, dragging along. Oh, Genius says, sometimes I want to stop looking at metals and sleep. Yeah, I mean, I feel you. But Asia is so sweet, man. Right? Like, I think partly the reason why I'm waking up so early is like, oh yeah, is there a London trade? Is there Tokyo take profit? I must be in. I've got to be in. Because out of all the events in the day, that's probably the easiest setup. So if I'm going to trade something that's super risky, like I traded silver today, maybe I shouldn't have, I don't know, because if that went wrong, I would have been like easily like 800 to a grand in the hole, easily. And then knowing me, I would try that again, so that would turn into 1.6k loss on the day. But I did it, it worked, and I got 500 ticks from it. So sometimes we got to put some risk somewhere, but I'm not, I think for the duration, while I'm trying to get these combines over the hump, no more silver trading. In fact, I'm going to block that from my whole thing and lock up the risk settings so that I do not touch it. Asia or 1 hour before London or 4 a.m. So I like the 2 hours before London. That's like for me the best, because that's when the Tokyo ends. Then they do a sweep through it, and then they start running it back up or down. Depends on, you know, whether they've been going up or down. So, yeah. Daniel says gold is bouncing off of a big support line. It'll drop a lot if it drops down. Let me have a look at gold. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it could drop to 5,000. Don't know if it's a lot, because gold is bonkers these days. But I could definitely see it going down to 5,000 easily. What do I have on gold today? So let me see my anchor points, because I did do that this morning. And I tried to grab a bigger chunk of the options chain. It didn't quite go that far down, and I can't be bothered to redo it again. The last one that I had was at 5050, something that's notable. But yeah, I can easily see this tomorrow testing 5,000. Easily. Daniel says, Deanna, do you have the lifelong Bookmap sub? Thinking of getting that one myself, but trading has to fund that for me to get it. No, I have it month by month. Part of the reason is because I like to get my like VAT back on expenses, and if it's just like a one-off payment, that means that I don't have like a recurring expense that I can claim against my tax return. I know it's a crappy reason, but anything that can just be like running expenses, that's actually a good thing for me to reduce the tax bill, which is very important for me. But yeah, I mean, you can get the lifelong one. I just don't like doing that personally, for the reasons explained. Yeah, of course, Dave, are you in Vietnam? Ho Chi Minh City. I did I did 1 year. There was a house dance collective called High on Heels that I used to play sax in. We were the headline act for the Heineken Festival in Ho Chi Minh. So we were there, and we were in, what was I think the hotel was called Saigon something. It was one of the luxury hotels. And in the hotel, everybody spoke English. But wherever else you went, nobody spoke a word of English, and it was so weird. And they do this condensed milk coffee. Like every time you ask for milk in the coffee, it's condensed milk, and I hate sweet coffee. I cannot stand it. So I kept trying to explain to the girl working. I was like, no, so just give me black. Like, I don't, no. And she kept going, yes, yeah. And I'm like, no. And she's like, yes. Kept giving me condensed milk. I'm like, stop it. I'm on keto. I can't have that. It's a very different world. But hold on, weren't you in Thailand at one point, Dave? If I remember you correctly. Yeah. I think you were in Thailand. You were posting some monkeys. We had a trader / coach who he's Australian, but he lived in Thailand for a while. And he loved it there, but I think the hours for him were a bit weird, like you said. Like if you want to trade the New York session, and he was trading the New York session, it's like the middle of the night or something. It's really quite difficult if you want to have any sort of a functional life. And then how do you enjoy the nice weather if you're always awake at night? Kind of defeats the point. But if you're trading Asia, trading metals, yeah, it's absolutely fine. All right, so we're back to entry, and Delta is recovered completely. So look at top flat. We are flat, and we're back above 81. So the only thing I can lean on here is the round number, because there's really nothing else. So we'll see whether my little theory here of slow push past settlement can bring us a few more bucks on the day. Few more bucks, please. Can I have some more? Do the Oliver Twist impression. And then the question is, how far are they gonna have it? If they just tag the highs here and then kind of run it back down, that's not going to be ideal. But if that's all it's going to give me, I ain't going to chase this bigger target. So I might just take, whatever we can get. But they are definitely running it back up. This is your classic gamma squeeze. Gamma squeeze. Squeeze. Should we make gamma lemonade? Squeezing the price action for a few bucks. Shinobi says, looks like third attempt on 15 minutes chart, gold futures rejected lower. For now, that is. Gordon X says, zašto nosiš naočare u kući? Zato što imam osjetljivost na svetlo. Sorry, that was Serbian. I'm just talking Serbian. Još jedan problem koji imam sa... Kako se to zove na našem? Myalgički encephalomyelitis. However you say that in Serbian. But yeah, as a part of a lovely side effect, you get light sensitivity. I zato nosim naočare unutra. I uveče, pošto je ovo sad veče ovdje. Ali pošto su mi svetla veoma jaka, boli me oči. Alright, that's enough Serbian for now, otherwise we're gonna lose people. Suddenly, he turns into somebody who talks Simlish jibber jabber. But no, that is Serbian, so... Yeah, we've got somebody who speaks my language. And yes, I am originally from Serbia, but have lived in London for a quarter of a century now. Right, slowly pushing above. Let's see if it tags me into 2 of these. 4 and 5. 4 and 5. Come on. Daniel says, makes sense, good thinking. Trust me, I can find a lot of ways to deduct tax. I guess we all have that hate relationship with that legalized theft. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I mean, you know, taxes are inevitable for sure. And you know, I don't mind paying it, but this Labour government, man, they're taking everything from us. It's really, really difficult to hold on to anything. And now they've gotten really super tight with like the type of expenses you can claim. And I never claimed anything dodgy or anything like that. But, you know, I had questions from... We had a new accountant who kind of joined the firm. Oh my God, he was just like... ridiculous, right? He's like, what was this? And what was this? And when you went to the petrol station, did you get anything else apart from the petrol? And I'm like, geez, man, it was a business trip. Like, what does it matter? Like, I don't go to London willy-nilly just because, you know, it was a business meeting. So yeah, of course. And I don't work anymore from London. So it was definitely outside of it. Like, what are you doing? And he went through everything. And then he was like, well, what are all of your multiple sources of income? Can you, like, please explain to me? And I'm like, okay, I've got 12 of them. Like, do you want me to go through each? Yes. And then he got really confused. He was like, well, what do you mean you get some payouts mostly from America? And I'm like, well, because I work with American companies. That's just how it is. But yeah, that's a weird thing to do. It's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, but that's how my business is structured. It's like, what do you want me to say? And it was horrible, man, horrible. And I don't know why he did that. You know, I've been paying taxes for all of my adult life, and suddenly some pipsqueak decides to grill me on my expenses without even knowing how things, like, I got the impression that he didn't even know what like day trading is or how you're supposed to like run it from a tax perspective. So I'm like, let me educate you, boy, for a second. No, I don't mind. It's just I do mind overly inquisitive tax people who have just stepped on the scene as certified accountants, and then they're all high on their horse and trying to imagine that us who have been running the business know nothing about tax. That's you know, that is what was the problem. And you know, like I said, I don't mind paying tax. I just mind it when all of the tax is you know, when the tax is actually 50%, right? And you try every way to reduce that legally, and they still find ways to get you. I'm like, well, great, because I pay myself for like dividends and stuff, and then once you go over a certain amount of dividends, there is no relief, right? There's only relief up to about 60 grand, and then above 60 grand it's still taxed at like 33%. So it's like, there's absolutely no point complicating things. So I'm like, you know what, let's just pay it all through like normal ways, and increase salaries, and you know, it's become very odd. I don't even know what people do that don't actually make a sufficient amount of money. Like, how do they live? You know, how do they live? I don't know. Sonny says, my mom was diagnosed with fibromyalgia a year ago. Yeah, it's a similar disease with slightly differing mechanisms, but it is very similar. For years, she thought she was chronic tiredness. The doctor advised no meat and a lot of crops. Yeah, interestingly, I react to animal protein. I can't like my diet now, I can do fish and I can do sushi, but anything with a lot of fiber, anything that is like nightshades, like tomatoes and stuff, and it's not like cooked to buggery, I feel like death. Like I feel like I swallowed a rock or something, and then I'm not well for days after. I get weak, everything hurts, and I'm like, why? What's happening? And it seems like as the years go by with my illness, I'm gonna get tagged into this one position now. As the years keep going by, I seem to be getting more and more foods that I'm reacting to. So antihistamines help with that, and they definitely stabilize me. But yeah, fibromyalgia is also like a mystery illness that nobody knows what to do about, and it's a mystery. Like they don't have good research, they don't really know what causes it, obviously no treatment, so it's very difficult. Is it going to tag me into the fifth one? Come on! Yeah, so we're in with all 5. Let me just add stuff. So, what I'm doing now, obviously I'm going to add 2 at a very aggressive target here. I don't think we're going to get there, but I can always like pull it down if I want, or just close the entire position. And at the moment, I'm just going to plop in 2 stop sells. This is what I mean when I say it's a little bit more labor intensive this way. But I'm basically scaling in into a position as it goes my way, only to a degree. So now the scaling in is done. And once we get over 50 ticks in profit, I'm going to move these 2 new add-ons onto the new average price, which hasn't moved that much. Okay, so I make sure that the 2 add-ons scale-ins that I do add on to the core position, that they're not like miles out of the original core position entry. So now if this goes into another high, and I get like 60 ticks in profit, I'm going to move this to break even, but leave the original 3 wherever it is. Okay, so leaving that initial risk. This only works on crude oil, by the way. It does not work on natural gas. It does not work on silver. It does not, scaling in just doesn't work in the same way. And it doesn't, some products are more wiggly, right? So you have products that wiggle all over the place, and even if you use like a 300 tick stop, like for example on gold, it's going to wag you out of the position, just like shake you out crazily. So yeah, but that's it. That is the gamma squeeze still going on. That's why you don't go against it. Pretty educational, I suppose, huh? Yeah, fibromyalgia means pain in the muscle. Massage therapy is great for it. So here's the thing, I get pain in my calves a lot. Sometimes it's unbearable and sometimes it's okay, but it's always sitting at about 4 out of 10 level. Only when I'm really not well, it goes up to like 20 out of 10, and it's just like I'm sitting in bed and just going, ow, ow, and that's when I have to take like painkillers and stuff. But massage kills me. I don't know whether that's a feature of this illness as well, but as soon as anybody touches me with any kind of pressure, I go into a crash the next day. And I used to love getting massages. I absolutely enjoyed it. I can't do that anymore. So cheers to that, ME and Pfizer. So you can't even enjoy things. I can't do sunshine. It hurts me. Can't do massages. I can't do exercise. It's basically, they used to call it living death back in the day. Alright, so we're getting more of these sweeps to the upside. So this is not a sweep where they're going to sweep it through and then reverses. This is a sweep with the movement, with the gamma squeeze. You do not go against that. You stay in. You hold on. We're flying. Alright, so now that we're over 50 ticks, I'm doing this. And seeing how much we can get out of the next few minutes here that I'm going to spend with you. Once I'm off the stream, I'm just going to grab whatever is around, but we'll hang for another 5 minutes and then that will be it, yeah? Why not? And then we're grabbing another, 200 here if it continues. If it doesn't continue, that's also fine. but for now it looks alright. Your body has a memory of a past injury, TDM trades. I'm saying this because I was a therapist and I would adjust my pressure to them if they communicated with me. Yeah, I know. I tried doing that, but you know, gentle massages, they feel like caressing. And I'm not there to, you know, have a gentle... I used to like quite firm massages before I got sick. So I don't know, just spending money on a massage where they're just going to like caress you for like an hour. I don't know whether I'm in favor of that, to be fair. It's like, what is the point? What is the point? Damn, oil getting expensive again. Yeah. Raptor, my girlfriend uses LDN. I want to get LDN. I have, as of a few days ago, because I've been going through this really long process of getting diagnosed. And until very recently, until I actually moved here, which is in Surrey, I actually had terrible doctors that were just very rude to me and very dismissive and just told me I was crazy, effectively. But these guys over here, I don't know whether it's because the science is caught up that it is a biological disease, so now they're being a little bit less mean. And the doctors that I have now are very compassionate. They listen to you, they try and help. So I have an official diagnosis, finally, after like 4.5 years of being sick. And they're sending me to like an ME clinic. I don't know what they're going to tell me that I don't already know. Unfortunately, I don't think they can prescribe it. I know that in some other countries, even family physicians can prescribe LDN, but UK is a bit different that way. And in order for them to prescribe anything off-label, it's just not an option. So the only way would be to maybe go to a private doctor or something, which again would suck my energy because I would have to go and, you know, find a doctor, maybe probably go to Harley Street because you need somebody with an ME experience, and that means driving to fucking London for an hour and a half and back through all the traffic and A3 and all that horrible roads. I don't know whether I have energy for that, quite frankly. So I'll see what the ME clinic can do. Maybe they can prescribe something, but low dose naltrexone is definitely there. I did try it from because I have a friend who has ME. They gave me a pill, but I don't know whether I got that too high a dosage or something. I had like, I couldn't sleep like at all. I was just like a bit wired. So I need somebody to guide that process, and I'm not going to be doing like just taking random medicines from friends. Yeah, don't do drugs. But it's you know, maybe it'll help if I titrate it, you know, if I kind of start very low and then see whether that helps. But I don't know. For now, I don't have a way to get a prescription for it, so I'm gonna have to wait. Alright guys, so I'm gonna book this thing. So we're looking at an additional 230, 45 ticks, so you know, it could keep going up, but I just can't be bothered, honestly. Like, I would have to just sit here and babysit it, and I just want to go and chill. It is Thursday, and I'm gonna go relax, get the dogs all around me in bed, and just finish the day a little bit earlier. So yeah, that's an extra 200 and whatever that was, 220 bucks in the bank on a gamma squeeze. So no reversal, but a gamma squeeze. Managed to find a trade in the end. We had to hang together a little bit fast, a bit longer than usual, but I think it was pretty educational, and I think you maybe have a little bit of a better idea of how to approach these end of day trades. Next week we might have a day range fill reversal, so we'll see. Maybe it actually fills the day's range, which is what the whole point is on most days. But today we had different contexts with the risk off, and we didn't want to fight that. But in the end, we found one. We found a trade, guys. And yeah, this is one of those that can just keep going. I just can't. I just can't. I've had a long day, guys, a long day, and I just want to go and sit in a dark room in my bed. All right. Thank you all for joining me here. I am really pleased that we managed to share this time together. I'm going to try to do this every Thursday if my health serves me. If not, I will let you know on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it is pip_raider, like Tomb Raider but with pips and an underscore. So if you want to go check me out, I think that's somewhere on my YouTube channel as well. I'm not, don't quote me on that, but I think at some point I'll put it maybe under the link section or something. In the meantime, I will be back with the metal markets on Top Step TV at 11:30 a.m. GMT on Monday, and that is 5:30 a.m. East Central. Is it Central? Yeah, 5:30 a.m. Central and 6:30 a.m. Eastern. Until then, have a beautiful weekend. Be careful with crude oil. It is a bit crazy because of risk off. Open up financial juice and see what's happening. If we run through any gamma walls, so if you have mental Q and it runs through a gamma wall, assume it's a gamma squeeze, trying not going against it. Use the London close as the gauge of how much bullishness or bearishness is in the market. If it doesn't really run backwards for the London close, it's probably still going into a freak out on the basis of a risk-off sentiment. Let's see what NFP brings as well tomorrow. Might be a nothing burger, might be a big mover. All in all, big week with a lot of stuff happening. So into the next week, I don't see that changing. Caution, small size. Go down to 1 micro, go back into practice account if you've never seen crude oil do this, and just be cautious and risk-minded as we try to weather this new expansion of the volatility in crude oil. But it is very exciting, and I'm one of the people that's very glad to have crude oil back on the map. That's all from me. Thank you once again. I will see you very soon. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.